Hail to all you heathens out there in YouTube land. This is Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas. I would like to welcome you to a special edition of the show. This is a collaborative effort between the Raven's Call and Midgard's Musings. This is the second half of our Ask Me Anything video that Jesse was so gracious as to host over there on Midgard Musings. So if you haven't seen the first part, it is on Midgard Musings. Look it up. Give it a shot. I'll try and put something in the show notes about it. And this is the second half, so please buckle up, join in, and let's go for a ride.
The next question from Crit C is, how do you meet, or how did you meet the members of your tribe? Yeah, how did you meet the members of your tribe or kindred, and do you know of any good or current online resources to find local tribes or kindreds, any other ways of meeting heathens with the intent of either joining or making a tribe? Whew. Did you get all that?
No, I got it all.
Eric, you've got a really solid tribe. So if you want to briefly break it down, I know you've got your online Wordweaver production of how to connect with people, so you may want to plug that, but go ahead with this for a while.
All right. I will try and keep this brief because the story of Ridgar is storied and long. This year actually marks the 10th year for my tribe. Now, I will tell you guys, the members of my tribe as they are right now, I am the only member that was here at the beginning. The membership has completely changed over the years, and that happens. That's a natural, organic thing, and it's the way that it goes sometimes. Sometimes you get people that are with it forever, sometimes you don't. How I met my tribe. The way I met my original tribe was through East Texas Heathens. It was a meetup group that our first chieftain, Mike Spires, started up. And I was actually on my way to a Blue Oyster Cult concert. And I saw this thing pop up, and I'm like, oh, there's heathens in the area. I have to go to this. I'm going to pass up BOC to go see this. And I'm such a huge BOC fan that was a major sacrifice for me, and it paid off because I met these people there that were cool. A lot of the people there at the group were not of the caliber that I necessarily wanted to start a tribe with, but Mike and his family were. And so we became friends. We talked a lot, visited each other often. We beat down the grass, did not let the grass grow too tall. Beat down the grass, traveled to each other, talked constantly, studied together, invented reasons to get together. And over about the course of 6-8 months, developed a structure that turned into Ridgar. And then we formed Ridgar, and we added another family to the tribe who Mike knew from his side of things, from his end of the world. And then Mike, as he grew and developed as an individual, wanted to move on and pursue Theodism, because what we built as a tribe was a blending of Anglo-Saxon and Norse Icelandic stuff. And he wanted to pursue some strong Theodish Anglo-Saxon side of things, because the more he grew and the more he developed as we worked together, the more he realized he needed that for himself and his family. So it was a completely agreeable thing. We were both on the same page. Dude, you need this to be able to go and be your best you. And so he went and did that. I took over leadership of the tribe. We added a couple of new families. Again, everybody that I've brought into my tribe, I met through East Texas Heathens, with the exception of my current Fostra, who I'm bringing in, and I met him ages ago through the Renaissance Fair. He and I have been friends forever. And so everybody else has been people that have come out to the group and have joined with us there and talked to us. And then we got to know them for a while before we ever asked them to join the tribe. And even then we put them through a year of worthing process before they actually fully became tribe members. By the time they swore in as tribe members, it was a foregone conclusion. It was a formality at that point. So as far as do I know any online sources right now? Sure, in the East Texas area, because I built them. They're my toys. They're my things. East Texas Heathens is a fantastic way to network with people in the East Texas area. We get together when we can. Right now with whole executive order stuff, we can't really get together the way that we would like to. It may be another month or two before I'm able to host another park moot, but that's an excellent way to get together and network. As far as in your area, I don't know. Has anybody built one yet? If not, build it. That's how you get it. You got to do the thing. History remembers the doers. And so you got to get out there and do. If there's not a network pre-existing, then create one. And you will find that just getting it out there and putting it in the public eye and putting the right words on it. Don't get artsy with the words. The reason I chose East Texas Heathens is because that is specifically what I'm looking for the group. Heathens in the East Texas area. I do have my Word Weaver Productions fan page, and there's the Word Weaver Productions community, which is the Facebook group. And you can jump on there. I have a roll call post on that's, I think, stickied. If it's not stickied, it's always close to the top because people are constantly adding to it. But everybody goes on there and lists where they are, their general area, like the city and state that they're in, or at least the nearest major one. And then people connect because it pops up in the group. People see the notification. They go and check it out. I've seen people in the comments go, hey, I'm in that neck of the woods too. We should hook up and we should hang out. I've known some tribes that have spun up off of efforts that I've done with ETH and Word Weavers because they have messaged me about starting up their regional pages, and I've kind of coached them through it. There's at least 3 different startups that I can think of that kind of piggybacked off of what I was doing and used a lot of our template stuff. A couple of them even borrowed the rules for our group straight from me. I was like, here, take it, go, do whatever you need. So find existing stuff that's out there just by searching your region and the word heathens. If it's not there, create it and people will find it. Build it and they will come. It's definitely a thing. Now, also expect if you build these things, people are not gonna just get up and come out to a meetup because you host a meetup. There will be about twice as many people say they're interested as actually come. If you're lucky, if you're lucky. A lot of people don't like to get out from behind the keyboard, but even if it involves you getting out there and sitting by yourself in a park or at a coffee shop or at a bar, wherever you want to host your meetup, get out there and do it and then post pictures. Post a picture of you sitting at the park by yourself saying, man, I wish there were other heathens to come out here. And then people will be like, oh, hey, he's doing a thing. Maybe I should go out there next time and do it. And then pimp the hell out of your stuff. Put it everywhere, blast social media so people see it. Don't feel bad about blasting your stuff because people are not going to see it unless it's out there. And yeah, you can get obnoxious with it. I mean, don't post 6 times a day, but reminders a couple of times a week, especially leading up to it several times during the week. Do that, get it in the public eye, let people see it, and then they will decide to come out. But as you get people coming out, blast social media with the pictures and stories about what's going on. Tell the people that are there to go online and talk it up so that more people are encouraged to come out, and they will see that it's a safe space to come out and just be with other heathens. Don't use it as a recruiting ground, though. Let it happen organically. If people come out to your meetup and they feel like you're trying to recruit them or you're judging them for recruitment, they will not come back because they don't like the pressure. A lot of them are running away from organized religion that's pressuring them to begin with. And so stay away from that. That's a rookie mistake I see a lot. People are always like, how do I build a tribe? How do I build a tribe? I'm like, no, build a community first. Tribe will happen.
Thank you. I was gonna add that what you just said is, and guys, I've actually the inspiration behind Middle Tennessee Heathens and starting a tribe in my area was largely due to the model that Eric has shared and talked about. So he's been an inspiration for me personally, and I can definitely relate to the my first thing that I put out there was a couple of weeks in advance or almost a month in advance about a meetup, and I was the only one there. I showed up and I was at the place for the meet and sat there for an hour by myself. Well, my wife was there, but so we were there by ourselves. But it was but the next one that we did, man, we had like 12, 15 people show up, and then the other ones after that, sometimes you may get 3 or 4, sometimes you may get, so it's going to fluctuate, like people in your area have their own lives and it just may not jive with their schedule. But I think another important thing is once you do it, if you don't have something that exists and you build something, consistency,
Absolutely.
If you're going to say on the 15th of this month, we're going to be there, you be there. And then when you advertise that you're going to be doing it in a month from now or 2 months from now on the 12th, be there and maintain that consistent approach. That way people get to know what it is you have planned and they can almost work their schedule around it to attend. Nowadays, with the global climate that we've alluded to, and those things are a little bit more challenging. There's a lot of neat online resources. Facebook recently updated a feature for their messenger thing called Rooms. So it's like a private room. You've got this thing that Eric and I are doing right now called Zoom, which is, free for everybody to use. Has a little bit of some limited options for the free versions, but if you're fortunate enough or have the money to shell out for a licensed version, you've got way more options and features. But you got this, so under the and I think it's a great thing to highlight, Eric, is that heathenry is a community-based thing, right? You almost can't reap the full benefits of this faith way without having community, without having that sense of camaraderie, right? And yet, with the global climate being what it is, and the challenges that we have of physically meeting, there's been innovation come about. There's people hosting online group meetups or whatever. And while that is not the same thing and you don't get the same benefits from it, you're still able to maintain some sort of connection with your folks and with the folk of your community. So I think that's a great option as well.
Yeah, chat rooms, video chat, all that stuff. But don't fall into the video ritual trap. It doesn't work the same way. Don't do that. Don't do that. Host Zoom for community. Ritual needs to be in person. Don't introduce a window to the outside into your innermost ritual. Bad juju. Don't do that.
I totally agree. And I think Eric and I have both gotten asked in our various videos or various platforms about, can you show us how you do this ritual? Can you record this ritual for that? And we both have been like, this is, a Letterkenny reference, but hard no, hard pass.
Hard no.
That's great.
Yeah, I have explicitly stated in my videos why I don't do video of my rituals, and I still to this day get people messaging me, hey, can you show us a ritual? I'm like, no, I can't show you a ritual. I've actually stood outside my vey and kind of filmed towards it and explained to you guys that I won't bring electronics into my vey. I actually felt kind of about even picturing my vey. But I was in the profane space, so it was okay in the long run. But yeah, no, I will not video a ritual. Ain't gonna happen. We did that one time with a ritual that wasn't even to the sacred. It was a memory horn to a friend of mine that had passed away, dear friend of mine. And we snapped some pictures and we tried to take a video of the toasts that we did. And it wasn't even necessarily my idea. My lady jumped up there and was trying to preserve a little bit of it so that we could, have that memory for this individual. And we got done. And a couple of the pictures that she took turned out and had some orbs in them, really cool. But the video was nowhere. Like, not even a corrupted file. Like, there wasn't anything.
Oh, wow.
It was just gone from the phone. The energy said, this ain't gonna happen. So, no, I don't.
Reading of omens, right? I mean, that's kind of like, hey, we don't need any more confirmation about what that meant.
Right.
You get it.
And it's funny because the guy that passed was a Gothi, and he was the guy that I would bounce all my ideas off of. This was my guy. He was a guy that I originally applied to study under him because he was going to do kind of an independent Gothi study group, and I was going to be a student. So I turned in my application. He read it. And my application was like 80 pages long because he had to codify all this stuff. And he looked at me and said, I can't take you on as a student, but I'm sure as hell going to be your friend. And so we chatted about everything under the sun. He was the guy I could go to for stuff. So I can't help but imagine the video not even being there is because he slapped us across the back of the head and said, what are you doing? What's the matter with you? What you doing? And so, yeah, man, I miss Rod. Anyway, go on.
Good stuff. Same person, last question from this person, and we got a couple more to wrap up the video with. But Crit C asks, how would you practice our beliefs, rituals, etc., in an area known to be not accepting of any faith apart from Christianity, especially anything of a polytheistic or animist kind of approach, and may have a small group of fundamentalists that can be hostile towards people of other faiths? Well, I'm gonna, if it's all right with you, I'm gonna
go ahead,
field this one and then let you go.
Go ahead.
add into it, because I live in a very heavily populated, somewhat rural, but it's still not nearly as remote of an area that works best for community events, tribal, rituals, celebrating of holy tides, that sort of thing. I tried it once. At a Yule event that I hosted, and it was here on my property, and which is not very large. And while the ritual and all that was felt well by the attendees and everything, got some unsavory feedback from some of our neighbors, like over the next couple of days, going, it's really kind of weird when you got a bunch of people standing around a fire yelling, Hail Odin or whatever. And it kind of made me think of, a lot of, people aren't set up in the same way as like maybe Eric or other people who I know who have, rural, like they're out in the boonies, right? They're kind of out in the sticks, and they're not bothering anybody by setting up a bonfire and doing what they do, and it's more private. And then you got folks like me or others who are in, more inner city apartment type living, and who don't have that level of privacy. So for those types, for folks like me, it's like you can still practice your beliefs, but you're going to have to be a bit more private about it. Maybe you have to be a bit more careful and respectful of your neighbors, because we're all sharing, we're sharing lives together, in the sense you have neighbors, right? So you don't want to be disrespectful. You wouldn't want them being disrespectful at volume levels and things like that. So you have this coexisting dynamic that is, you want to be respectful. I think what he's looking at, though, is like this whole I'm in Tennessee, Eric's in Texas, the big Bible Belt areas of the world, of the country. And how do you deal with these extremists that want to come up and you're going to hell and you need, to convert, and you need to do this and do that? I don't really get that too much around here, but how you deal with it, most of the time they're harmless, and most of the time they're just out to try to get a rise out of you. So there's a lot of public events that are being hosted in my area, and I'm sure other places too, like pagan pride days and things that bring in a large group of eclectic pagans, not just, Germanic pagans, but all different sorts of people who follow polytheistic beliefs. And you're going to get those crazy kooks that come around and want to picket it, or sort of, hold up their signs and create a scene. You just ignore them, just do your thing, be respectful of the people that are around you, and try not to worry too much about the crazies that pop up here and there. But what do you think, Eric?
This one makes me laugh. How do you practice heathenry in an area hostile to heathenry? Well, that's what I've been doing. Like Jesse said,
what our ancestors did. I mean,
exactly.
They had that hostility in such an extreme way. But
absolutely, guys. Olaf Tryggvason was known to burn people's bellies out with hot coals. I mean, it's convert or die. Convert or die. The North was turned by the sword and fire. Here in East Texas, we joke that we're the buckle of the Bible Belt. There are more churches on the street corners than there are people to fill them. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we are a mix of everything. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, but essentially, there is one church that has had a stranglehold on Tyler for generations. I won't name them for libel reasons and whatnot, but I will tell you, anybody in the East Texas region knows them as Six Flags Over Jesus, and the brand new Coliseum style sanctuary they built, we called the Baptidome while it was being built. And so it looked like a Coliseum. I kept laughing because when it was going up and it was nothing but the bone structure of it, I'm like, that looks like a Coliseum. Do they realize they used to feed Christians to lions in those things? I mean, I'm just saying. And so anyway, hostility's always been there, but it's a different world than it used to be. Back in the 80s and 90s, it was a lot more dangerous to come out about things because we hadn't had the whole hate crime revolution, where the cops suddenly had to step up for hate crimes that were against things other than the socio-normative side of things. There's a lot of things now because of developments over the last couple of decades sorry, a little frog in my throat, that have made it easier to step out there because people can't physically do anything to you. Because if they do, all you got to do is call the law on them, and they're in the wrong. And so that is something that has developed that wasn't always there. Older generations did not have that. And so that's a luxury that we enjoy in the modern era. Now, socially, they can be a pain. So I avoid a lot of this through stuff that I've learned trial and error. Like Jesse said, I live out in the sticks right now. I'm 30 minutes from town. I'm on acreage out here where, yeah, I can have ritual. I can get loud. We can throw spears and axes and just have a raucous good time. And we don't have to worry about it. This was not always the case. When I was, first getting into heathenry, I was living in town. I grew up on a cul-de-sac in Tyler and then moved to an apartment and then moved to a duplex and then moved out into the sticks. I have systemically moved myself further and further from civilization, specifically because I like it in the country and it makes it easier to do what I do. But while I was there, like Jesse said, the number one thing that I found that kept the haters out of my hair was just being respectful. One, I don't do rituals in public spaces. That is inviting, that's laying bare your most inner thing for public view, and that's inviting somebody to mess with it. People will do that just to sow chaos, and they will take joy in it. They don't really hate you. They don't really have anything. They're trolls, and they're going to troll. Trolls are going to troll. So I just don't do ritual out there. I do, however, do community-based things. And so we'll do East Texas Heathens, we'll have our park moots, and then as we build the group up online, when people are saying, how will I know where you are? I'll simply reply, look for the long-haired dude with a hammer on and the other scruffy-looking individuals that you go, oh, those are the heathens. I mean, we stand out. And so we'll also agree on a location. We'll get together. We don't have a sign that says East Texas Heathens or anything like that. We don't call attention to it because that's not what we're there for. We're there for the heathens to get together, the heathens, heathen-friendly and heathen-curious, to get together and talk and visit and have a good time and get to know one another. We're not there to draw public attention. I'm not looking for walk-ups that are just like, ooh, what is this? Because that's how you get haters. That's how you get racists that roll up in there and want to turn things on its head. So I control the image a little bit by just controlling where our presence is. It's brand management kind of stuff. Don't throw it up in a place where you're going to get bad press, but throw it up all over the place where you're going to get good press. And build the community from the grassroots up. Big on the grassroots heathenry side of things. And so as I was in town, I would do my rituals, like when I was in my duplex, I would do my rituals in my backyard. And I couldn't get as loud for those, obviously, because I had neighbors and I had to be respectful of that. We would do a number of our rituals inside around the altar because that's the space we had to work with. You work with what you've got and within the confines and limitations and just kind of roll with it and do the best you can.
Yeah, I'm in agreement because, again, everyone's situation is set up, and I don't think that the effort behind what is being done is going to be any less received or any less important because of the geographics of it all. So it's not like, oh, well, just because I can't do a ritual, around a huge bonfire with 30 people, we're not going to get the results that I want. The intent is what's important, and the intent behind it all is where you get the most out of it. So if the intent is to do the thing and the only viable option that you have is a small, section of your backyard or a room or space dedicated within your home to do that in, I mean, the way we connect with the sacred is not limited to our four walls or the roof over our heads. We can transcend and we can reach them with or without that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And certain things like a historical side of things, hardcore recons won't do Sumble outside. They have to do it under a roof and within four walls. That's a hard set thing for them. And I can tell you from experience, and some of you out there in the viewership, I'm sure were able to be there, but Lightning Across the Plains was this huge thing that took place up in Kansas. There were like 250 heathens on a hill, and we reserved this big area of the park, and we're there for an entire weekend. It was like a 3 to 4 day event, a little bit longer if you came to help set up like we did. And I did rituals up there. I conducted rituals up there. And I can tell you that I had really good results with a large scale ritual as far as the efficacy of it. But I've had even better results with a group of 12 people at my house doing it in the yard. I have done just as meaningful rituals in our old chieftain lived in some smaller housing. It was basically an apartment kind of setup, but it was a little bit bigger than that. And he had dedicated a room in his house to be a Hof. And that's where we did ritual. And the rituals that I did there were just as effective, if not more, than when I was doing ritual for 250 people on a hill in the middle of nowhere where we could get loud and raucous. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a neat thing to take into consideration also, because, you know, we got historical references of some of the major holy tides where it was a community thing. Everybody came together and the ritual was done. You know, Yule is historically a community-based thing, I think, and at least from the Icelandic side. It's, you know, and you had your all thing. You had so many different things that could be conducted community-based, but the other side of that is, you know, like you were saying earlier, how much of that energy are you opening up and or inviting in, and just get so many more people involved. And
right, even those things that we have references to in like the sagas give us reference to Iceland as far as the rituals and stuff there. Heimskringla still gives us stuff over on the Norwegian side of things, and the kings traveled for Yule. They would visit different steads within the area, and so they too did that. But you'll notice in each of those that it's not necessarily truly an open ritual. It is a larger scale ritual, but it's still these people's tribe and family and folk. It's their community that they brought together. It's their community. You're not bringing in strangers from the outside. They all knew each other. You know, it may have been large scale, but that's because that was the entire Goðord for this Icelandic area getting together. It's the heads of households and stuff like that. When the king was going, you know, the king was gracing households, and it was the households, their retainers, their people, and the king was a guest there, an honored guest. So, yeah,
good thing to take note of. All right, got a few more, actually two more questions, and I'm glad we saved these to the end because they're usually fun ones. James White on YouTube asked, what are some of your pet peeves in heathenry? I actually did a video recently about like my top 5 pet peeves, or my top 5 things that bug me, that grind my gears, if you will, about the misconceptions of heathenry, or what it is, you know. I mean, so like, you know, I think some of the things that he's asking about or talking about, it's like I don't have any pet peeves within heathenry itself. What the pet peeves that I find are things that get associated to heathenry that don't have anything to do with heathenry, or have anything inherently to do with heathenry, even though there's some aspects of those things that may get inserted. You know, so I mean, the big one for me is the whole Viking thing. You know, oh, you're a Viking because you wear a hammer and you do ritual to these old Germanic gods and whatever. That's the big one for me. You know, Eric, what are some of yours? We've bounced back and forth on this one.
My biggest pet peeves are people that don't get the why. People that don't understand why they're doing something and go about it for the wrong reasons. Those frustrate the hell out of me because I can't explain to these people why what they're doing is missing the base. You know, it's like you're doing the right things, but for the wrong reasons, and it's tainting what you're doing. So that gets really frustrating. And then the flip side to that, probably my biggest pet peeve is, besides just online heathenry as a whole, because it's Trollheim, is the phrase "you're doing it wrong." I hear that out of individuals that are convinced their tribal cultic aesthetic is the only way, especially out of some that fancy themselves hardcore recons. I know some really good hardcore recons that aren't like that at all. They're like, this is how we do it. And we focus on this time period. Yeah, exactly. And so that's the thing. That's why my catchphrase, not my hall, not my call, is my thing, is because I get so tired of newbies coming to a group and then getting chased off because they're told they're doing it wrong. And then they get browbeat into submission about it, because people will, and it's also a misapplication of shame culture. People are calling it shame culture, saying, well, we're shaming them so that they will learn something before they step in and try and play with the big boys. I'm like, well, that's a stupid way to go about it. One, they have to want to belong to a social group before shame actually works. That's just the mechanism of shame only functions if it is applied by a society to which the individual wishes to belong. If they're just testing the waters and you try to apply shame as they're coming in, they don't want to belong to your group. That's just how it is. If you don't want them to belong to your group, then fine, you've succeeded. But if you're interested at all in training up new individuals to think for themselves and to develop something, then, you know, coming at them with "you're doing it wrong" or, you know, "what's your source for this, what's your source for that," is not a good way to foster new generations. You know, it's like there are different ways to go about that, and I could ramble on forever about that, but you know. Those are probably, that are racists. Those are probably my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, you got to be Northern European to even, you know, get out of here with that. It's
closet racist or soft racists are probably the worst. The ones that are racist and don't realize they're racist. And people that misconstrue culture with race, they're not the same thing.
No,
they're not the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, and I've had a couple instances, you know, where you know, this one recently. I want to say it was maybe this year, or it could have been last year, but the observance of certain pagan holidays or holy tides that don't fall in line with the Germanic historical side of things.
The calendar.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, I'm like, I would get Walpurgisnacht is a big one. And it's like, what are you doing for Walpurgisnacht? I'm like, me? Nothing. My tribe? Nothing.
Right.
That's not even part of our...
We don't do Walpurgisnacht either.
Another one that I got was the Charming of the Plow, and it falls on like a calendar date or whatever in like February, and somebody asked me like, so what are you doing for the Charming of the Plow? I'm like, it's February. I'm not planting anything at this point, so nothing right now. Maybe later on in a few months when I do my, you know, if I'm going to be doing a garden or something like that, and then and so it goes back to the why. You know, why are you doing something in February when regionally you're not going to be charming plows, you're not going to be planting crops, right? Why would you even do that?
In defense of Charming of the Plow in February, it is a preparatory ritual for the sowing process. So it's the blessing of items prior to the planting season. So there is a purpose for that. We don't do it because we're not agrarian. We don't. I mean, we do some mild gardening and things like that. Some of our people do, but that's not something. I'm not going out and tilling fields. I don't need to bless my corn crops and do sheaf rites because I don't have corn crops. That's not what I'm doing. Now, if I did do corn crops, then yeah, by all means, I'd be prepping my stuff. We actually do a separate version of that sometimes around winter nights. We'll do a ritual to Olur, or to Skadi, and bless our hunting implements for a bountiful harvest during the hunt season. So any kind of harvesting item, it can be done. Timing-wise, you also have to take into account regionalization of temperate climate zones and things like that. And I'm not a fan of tying down holidays to a specific date. That largely came from like AFA kind of stuff. And I don't jive with that. It's more based on when the world is telling us it's time to do this.
Yeah, I've adopted that approach. Like for instance, my tribal Yule celebration happened, you know, this year in January. Kind of when things fell into line with the lunar cycles and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you're saying, when's the world ready for this? When is it, you know, time for this? That's how we can have enough information to fall back on. Like that's how our ancestors kind of conducted the keeping of time, or the when they held their various festivals or celebrated certain holy tides. It wasn't locked down to a calendar date, the same time every year. But okay, so I've got one more question. So thank you, Eric. I know this has been a long video, but I hope everybody's really enjoyed this. First of all, I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a fun time, just
Oh, I'm having a blast.
back and and I know your schedule being what it is right now, you've done a lot to be flexible with this. So I'm sure
I haven't slept yet.
well, I hope you get enough and plenty of sleep after this is all said and done, because it's greatly appreciated. So having said that, the final question comes from on a Facebook comment, Matthew Petrie, who I've talked a lot about in videos. He does Odin's beard and woodworking. He's a craftsman that makes various altar accentuations, god poles, pocket altars, things like that. You guys know who I'm talking about. Check his stuff out. But his question, what got y'all started down this path? And Matthew's living in Vermont, but he's from Kentucky. And that sounds like a very Kentucky way to put it. What got y'all started down this path? What got me into heathenry? Or what got you into heathenry? I will start real quick. I've talked about this a lot in my other videos, what kind of brought me to heathenry. But it started off, I was raised in with Christian values, or in a Christian worldview and the doctrine surrounding Christianity. So, 20 some odd years into my life, almost 30 years into my life, when I decided that wasn't working for me, it came as a big shock to my family, and I got met with some opposition on it from various folks. But the reason why I got into it is because I kind of grew away from just being the sheep or being the follower, and just taking what I was being told as the end all be all of life, and got to thinking more about the practicality of things. And so I hit a point where I was like, spirituality, not for me. I'm just going to forget about this whole thing. But there were certain actions in my life that kind of, drew my attention, whether it was aesthetically or the fundamentals behind Norse heathenry, that really stood out to me, and it kind of piqued my interest. So I started doing some research about the mythology first off, and then learning some of the, if you will, some of the more primary resources, like the Poetic Edda, Prose Edda, reading from the Havamal, that sort of thing, and kind of getting a little bit of a background of what this path meant, at least from a very basic start. And I liked what I felt. I liked the fact that there was, it wasn't like a totalitarian view of God is above me and I'm his subject, and if I don't do it, I'm going to pay the price ultimately. It focused more on my actions and my deeds, and how I lived as an individual, and worked with the people who I was around, and lived, coexisted with people, and to make myself a better person. And I didn't have to feel like I was being looked over my shoulder by some, egomaniacal figure in the sky that's going to, burn me for eternity if I didn't do what he said. So that's what drew me to heathenry, and that's what's kept me there, is because I answer to myself. I don't answer to, the gods or whatever. It's not like they're waiting to judge me on anything. I'm my own. I kind of steer my own ship, and work with weird in my own way, and try to establish a connection between myself and the sacred in that way. And it feels more natural to me. So, Eric, what got you here?
That's a very difficult question. Simply because I'm not exactly sure. I was not brought up in a religious household. My family was very much like, my dad was non-denominational, and my mom was something else. She was still searching. She later kind of found her niche in her place, but she was searching. And so she couldn't, in good faith, push me into something when she herself was searching. And so my dad respected that, and they gave us kind of free rein to figure ourselves out as we went through life. And so I did a lot of searching. I identified with pretty much everything under the sun at one point in time or another. And then in my early teens, I got into kind of generalized paganism, and discovered that I was drawn to the Norse gods. And then I started working solely with them, because my family comes from a strong Norwegian line, and I was fascinated with my family and the old traditions of my family and things like that. And my great uncle tracked this all the way back to Harold Fairhair and all the dynastic individuals there, which was a feat. The dude was incredible when it came to genealogy stuff. He worked his entire life on it. He even left me his family tree stuff on Ancestry.com and all that. It was cool. I loved it. And so my mom has kind of taken that up now. But because of all that, I was drawn heavily to the Norse side of things. And it wasn't until probably my mid to late teens that I really kind of settled into that. So that's probably a little over 20 years ago now. And then it was a little bit later on when I discovered there was actually a term for it. I knew what I was doing. I knew how I was going about it. And all of a sudden I discovered other heathens and discovered, hey, there's a name for this, and they're doing what I was already doing. They believe the things I already believed. So I kind of found my way home, as it were. And so I've been heathen almost my entire life. I've called myself a heathen for a little over 20 years now. That's kind of how I found my way home, as it were, if you want to label something to it. So, Jesse, I got a question for you, man. Do you have those questions that I texted over to you?
Yep.
Because I thought we might hit the Havamal question.
Yes.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah, let me actually find
And I can't remember her name to save my life right now. I don't have my stuff up in front of me.
Yeah, so the good for calling that out, because I definitely don't want to, not include any questions. So thanks for reminding me. So yeah, I'm going to. So yeah, December Fields Bryant asked a question. Actually, two questions. So the first question was advice for creating a successful YouTube channel, not necessarily heathen related, but I think December has a channel that she does some content on. But
she does tea and pumpkins.
Yes,
tea and pumpkins is her stuff.
Yes. So folks, we'll put an annotated card up here for December's channel, because I think one of the important things or successful building of YouTube channels is to obviously get subscribers. Mm-hmm. So everybody check out December's channel. But Eric, since this came as a question to your platform, I think it was maybe in the Word Weaver group or page, whatever. You want to go ahead and start that one?
Sure. How do you build a successful YouTube channel? Well, when I consider myself successful, I'll tell you. Generally speaking, what I would say is I'm always continuing to grow. I'm amazed people actually follow my stuff. I think it's incredibly flattering. And I honestly built my channel off of my storytelling stuff to begin with. And that didn't take off. I did a thing for my group wanted me to do my storytelling stuff on YouTube so they could watch it and be able to get some of the stories and stuff for their kids. And we did a contest and everything online to figure out what the names would be. That's where I got Weaving Words for my storytelling thing. But Raven's Call came up as an extra name. And I was like, that is too good to pass up. So I'm just going to throw up an extra little side thing where I ramble on about different heathen crap and just go with whatever comes to mind. And it's a place for me to vent and do things. Well, that one took off like gangbusters. And that just kind of accidentally happened. And I eventually kind of let off on the whole storytelling side of things because people just weren't interested in it. I would get like 20 or 30 views on that, but I would get a couple of hundred views on my heathen stuff. And so my advice on that would be straightforward about what your content is about. Don't hem and haw and make it about a bunch of different things. Make your show about something. The content is important. I mean, that's what people come for, is the content. So make sure you build content that is of value. Make sure that they have something to come to, and then consistency. Consistency is key. When I first started out my channel, I seeded the show. I filmed a bunch of stuff ahead of time, and then I seeded it with like 2 or 3 videos a week. And just to get people kind of in and hooked on it. And then I let off to a more reasonable schedule of about once a week putting things out. And at that point, I got consistent about it. So over the last, it's been 2 years. It was 2 years in like November, I think. And so I'm working on my 3rd year now. I have been dedicated about getting stuff out every Wednesday at like 4 a.m. is when I put my stuff out. That's kind of what I've settled into as a schedule. And in order to meet the consistency, I will film multiple things at the same time. I'll do a couple of videos back to back, do my editing and stuff, and then schedule them so that I've got leeway during that period to be able to film something else and get something ready. Always have something in the hopper ready to go out so you don't miss your consistent schedule. That's kind of my take on things. I know, Jesse, you go at it a little bit differently on your delivery stuff, but that's how I have been able to maintain consistency, because I can't always guarantee that I've got a dedicated time to film, a dedicated space to film. Sometimes when I've had a really horrible week, I don't have time to stand in my office and film a video. So I'll come out here on the weekend and I'll film something, and I'll do a couple of them back to back, do my editing. And then when I get up to the office where I've got decent internet, I'll upload everything and get it ready. So consistency, content, and then blast it. Let people see it. Let people know that it's out there, and don't be afraid of it. Trolls will be trolls. They're going to do their thing. Don't let that get you down. As long as people are watching and people are doing, then you are on to something. Like with my storytelling thing, people weren't biting on that, so I didn't beat a dead horse. I didn't try to drive that. I focused on what people wanted to see and the content that was there, and then tailored to the audience that was just kind of organically building. So be flexible in what you are and what you're going to become. You will build an audience, and then that audience is going to want to see something. So if you want to keep them, tailor your content to that, but don't feel like you have to patronize to the audience. Give them meaningful content. Don't just fluff it in order to have something to go out there. That's probably why I stack the way I do, so that I've got time to come up with other ideas. I'm constantly adding stuff to an active list on my phone of show ideas, so that when I sit down to film, I pull that list up and I look at, okay, I'm going to do this one and this one today. And then I'll film those and then take my time to edit, and I allow myself plenty of time so it doesn't become too cumbersome. So, Jesse, what you got?
Yeah, no, that's a lot of good valuable feedback. One thing that if you're serious about content, and if you're serious about putting out content here on this platform, you got to realize just how saturated the platform is. So, hey, some days you're going to put a video out and it's going to get a ton of interaction. Other times you're going to put it out and it may not so much. But Eric's points of consistency, once you've got your fan base, once you've got people that are reaching out or engaging you with your content, you want to be consistent with that. I like Eric's approach about pre-recording things. I have done that a couple of times, and just usually my schedule just doesn't work out for me. So everyone's approach to doing stuff is going to be different. Eric's got
the live thing works so well for you, though. It really does. That's your jam.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I like doing it. It does do a good. It's good for the channel growth. It's good for the channel exposure, because your live streams and stuff are going to garner a lot more view time, just because it's the way they allocate it. But aside from that, I like the focus on what you're doing, because your channel name, your title name, the splash screen or the thumbnail that you use, all of those things are going to be what pull people in. So
clickbait.
I was going to say the title clickbait is very there's some weight to that. You don't want to obviously be misleading or look something too ridiculous, but man, I've experimented with that a few times, and I've used like some clickbaity things or questions like, hey, what is this, or what's going on, or you know what I mean, and people are like, I don't know what is going on, and they'll click on the video and that gets them in. So you got to think about that a little bit too.
I try to include the word heathenry in like all of my modern titles, because those are the ones that get the views, because people are looking for heathenry.
Yep. Depending on what you're using to upload your content, there's a lot of features within the YouTube Studio that gives you the ability to add tags to your content videos, because tags are going to be those sort of that meta, or those keywords that people are going to search in YouTube and say videos about heathenry. And if you have heathenry as a tag in your video, that's going to be one of the search results, especially the higher viewed videos that have more views to them.
I keep a Word document with all of my hashtags on there, and I copy and paste that over to every video, because I have like systemically over time built a list that I think just works.
Yeah. So and then just enjoy what you're doing. I mean, there's been times where I don't upload content because of feeling just a bit burnt out. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're not doing it for that reason, don't force it, because it's going to come across in your video. You're going to look disinterested or disconnected, and your audience isn't going to like that too much. So as long as you can, you know, portray yourself in the way you want to be seen in this platform, you know, be sincere. Don't be something that you're not. But have fun with it. You know, you can have a persona, you can have an image or something that you want to portray, and that's fine. Because it's for this platform and it's for this thing. But just, you know, don't use a fake accent over, you know, don't think you have to be somebody that you're not. But use some artistic license, I guess you could say, to just make it fun, make it enjoyable.
There is something to be said about characters, though, because certain channels will play to a specific character. Like one of the video gaming channels that I follow, this guy, his persona on the channel is a puppet. I don't know if any of you've watched Arlo's stuff, but he's a puppet. He's a Muppet. And that is his character. And it becomes endearing. I know Areth on some of his stuff does the angry Viking guy that he time travels back and forth with, and people seem to enjoy that. It's fun. I don't do characters because that's not really what people come to me for. I'm not that kind of silly side of things, but if you have the capacity for it and people like it, have fun with it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. So December, we hope that has helped you and your interest to build your YouTube channel. And the last question that she had is a really fun one, I think. And she asked is for fun. Honestly, that's what she said, for fun. What is your favorite Havamal stanza? Only one?
What you got, Jesse? What's yours?
I've been a fan. Well, you know, I'm gonna go there, but stanza 127, right? It's become a big one. It's, you know, if you recognize misdeeds, count those misdeeds as your own, and give your enemies no quarter. I think that's a big misunderstood one, because it makes people think that they have to insert themselves in areas that they just don't belong globally. But I like what it stands for, is because, you know, you're recognizing where there's been ill deed done, and you're taking responsibility for it, and you're addressing it. Another one that is probably bigger to me, that I've been a fan of, I want to say it's, depending on the translation, because sometimes the translations of the Havamal bump the numbers, so it's like somewhere in like the 75 or 77 region stanza. But it's, you know, cattle die, kinsmen die, you yourself also will die. One thing that doesn't is the reputation of one well earned, or something. It's a very, I'm very paraphrasing that, but it's putting emphasis on the fact that your reputation is everything, and it has been something for me that I've built a lot of what I do on. It's that, how will my songs be sung? Will my songs be sung? Are they going to be songs of renown? Do people even want to remember? Am I doing things that are going to be remembered? Because that's one thing that's not going to go away, is our reputation. So those are a couple that I really like.
All right. So my favorite stanza, and I'll do the Hollander translation because it's my favorite. And I'm just going to pick the one because we are running short on time at this point. And I don't remember the number, but I remember the quote. And that is, "The unwise man lies awake at night, thinking of this and that, tosses, sleepless, and is tired at morn. None the lighter for that, his load." That one just speaks volumes to me, because I am one of those stressors. I think about a ton of things, have a lot of things going on in my head. And if you follow my channel, you may have some ideas to some of a light, like surface level of some of what that is. But I am one that will worry myself into lack of sleep over stuff. And remembering that, you know, losing sleep over something is not going to fix it. It's still going to be there in the morning. And so let it go, get your sleep, take care of yourself. That's the self-care stanza for me. It's take care of yourself. It's not just sleep. It's in general, take some time for you, because those problems are still going to be there. Those stressors are still going to be there. And you owe it to yourself to take the time that you need to rest, to regenerate, and to re-energize yourself. Because otherwise, why are you doing it? You got to slow down and enjoy life. Otherwise, you know, what's it all about?
Yeah. You can't worry about things that you can't control. But I like that one too. All right, everybody. So there you guys have it, an AMA collaboration with Eric, Wordweaver Sjerven over at the Raven's Call. And it's been an absolute pleasure, sir, to have you here and talk about things and get everyone's involvement. You know, it's great to have people who want to know things and ask questions. So I personally want to thank you for being here. And if you want to plug anything, now's your time.
Hey, man, I want to thank you for having me on and for us doing this collaboration. I know this has been kind of a pain to work out the details on, but I appreciate you working with me on my schedule and everything, because it has been absolutely ridiculous these days. I finally get a day off on Monday, so I'm excited about that. Got to get a rest finally. So as far as plug goes, guys, check out my channel, The Raven's Call, unless you're watching this on The Raven's Call. Then check out Jesse's over on Midgard Musings. We want you to go both places because the content is different and we have different approaches to stuff. And I am a big one to say you need to learn from everybody that you can. You need to get as many different experiences and then think for yourself. So also check out my book. I've got a book up on Amazon. It's also an ebook version of it on the Kindle shop. It's the Saga of Bjorn Thorolfson. It's my attempt at kind of preserving some heathen worldview and traditions within the context of storytelling. And so it centers on a family, a heathen family that's going through and experiencing life. There's some fantastic stuff in there with like trolls, and we visit the spirit realm. And you see a lot of Vatir and the play on stuff like that. And it's very, very family driven. It's very, very family focused. It's not very long. And it's like $15 for the hard copy and like $4 or something like that for the ebook version. So check it out. Leave me reviews. All right. I keep asking people for reviews and people haven't put reviews up, but leave a review. It helps to push it, and do your own stuff out there. I want to see more people doing things like that in the future. So thanks again, Jesse. This has been an absolute blast, man. I love doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it too. So again, everybody, make sure that you're subscribing to our channels. All that information you'll see in the end screen, and continue working your own heathenry, and build your own sagas, write your own stories, and become something that your descendants can look back on and be proud of. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this now, and thanks everybody for watching.